Experimenting? Why not? Welcome to the Philippines, by the way. I'm trying a few new things out. We'll get there eventually. We're just seeing how it goes for now. Don't panic. Hi guys, it's Hutch. How's everyone doing? Today I'm reviewing Fils de Dieu by Etat Libre d'Orange. Wow, interesting thing. I'm going to start off by saying that. So this fragrance came out in 2012, and when it first came out, as far as I know, it was kind of controversial. I think they renamed it rather quickly. It used to be called Philippine Houseboy. The fragrance is inspired by the Philippines, and now it's been changed to Fils de Dieu, which is a son of God. And I don't know why the name change happened. If you read reviews of this on websites when it was called Philippine Houseboy, it's a little bit controversial, but the new one, I think they may have tweaked it a little bit. I'm not too sure, but the reviews on Fragrantica all vote that they smell the same, or they remind people of the same thing. So I think maybe they just took a few steps back, because the reviews had a few people up in arms. People thought it was racist, I don't know. But however, this is an oriental spicy fragrance, and I think it's kind of weird and wonderful. It's a beautiful, strange beast. And you know, Etat Libre d'Orange, you're going to get that with a lot of their fragrances, so that's why I wanted to review it. Anyway, so what are the notes? So the top notes are ginger, coriander, lime and shiso or shiso. Shiso is a leaf that is in the mint family, and it's mainly used in Japanese cooking as far as I can tell. And this fragrance does feel like Southeast Asia cooking. I have been to 2 different countries in Southeast Asia, so I can vouch for that. The heart notes are rice, coconut, cinnamon, cardamom, rose and jasmine. And then the base notes are vetiver, leather, which is the favoured note for Etat Libre d'Orange. They love to put leather in their fragrances. I think it just goes hand in hand with their whole provocative nature. Then you have tonka, amber, musk and oak moss. So the new reinvention of the story behind the fragrance is kind of a nod to something a bit sexual. It's about the servant and the served. I think a lot of people might have got annoyed because they might have thought that it was portraying Filipino people as cleaners. I'm not sure that's what Etat Libre d'Orange were going for. I think it was more about a sexual nature, because a lot of their stuff has a sexual undertone anyway. So that's my 2 pennies worth on what I think it is. Anyway, what does it smell like? Okay, so it's dry here and it's wet here. This one is, like I said, a strange and wonderful beast. The opening of this fragrance is a couple of different things at once. You can immediately feel lime, you can immediately feel a spiciness, it feels like coriander, it feels like coconut, and it's quite bright at first. But what happens is, literally about 10 seconds later, the coconut comes into play, and what happens is, it reminds me of Thai green curry. So if Thai green curry has been translated into perfumery and sprayed onto my skin, that's what I feel immediately from it. It's a foodie fragrance, but not in a gourmand way. It is almost like a savoury foodie fragrance at first. But don't switch off just yet, because what gets revealed after, when this dries, is something truly beautiful and kind of mind-blowingly weird, and I can't understand how it happens. However, at first, we are in savoury territory. You have this starchy rice note that's very apparent. It's the same kind of rice note that's featured in Dragonfly by zoologists. It's like when you boil rice in your house and the air is filled with that starchy rice feeling. It's that, with coconut and some lime. So it really feels like Thai green curry, or at least curries from Southeast Asia. When I think of Southeast Asian food, I've been to Vietnam and Thailand multiple times. The curries there have a lot of coconut in it. They're creamy, they're ricey, they're starchy, and they're fragrant. And that's exactly what this smells like at first. Really weird. But hey, it's Etat Libre d'Orange, what do you expect? So once you bypass that opening stage that is kind of truly bizarre and off-putting, it's one of those fragrances where if you smelled this and based it on first impressions, you might just walk away immediately, but this is one of those ones that really needs time. You have to let it develop, and it doesn't take so long to develop. It doesn't keep you in this Thai green curry territory forever, so don't worry. But what happens is, it's almost like the top notes descend into the rest of the composition. Sometimes top notes can be fleeting and they disappear out the roof, but sometimes they go down a few levels and the coconut really stays. It's really interesting. The coconut stays with it. There's a spark of lime, but what emerges is an entirely different thing to me. This feels like an almost tropical vintage style fragrance. It feels like a distant relative of a chypre style fragrance. The oak moss in here is doing its job. The coconut stays in a real nice level where it's not too weird and scary, and it's just holding on to that tropical kind of feeling, but it's almost like an amber rosy type thing comes out of it. It's powdery, it's soft, and it feels kind of elegant in a weird way. I feel like it's two worlds meshing together. It's a modern, contemporary, tropical kind of fragrance on one hand. I was going to say side, but hand, if we're going to say that. And then the other side is something that's almost familiar and vintage, and I have no idea how that happens. It must be just a combination of things. Well, obviously it's a combination of things, but when I look at the notes, I'm trying to think about what that could be, and I'm not really sure. Rose, amber, musk, oak moss. It's giving it a vintagey type feeling, but with just that twist of modern coconut tropicalness. Really bizarre. I do feel like it leans a little bit towards feminine because it's almost powder puffy at certain points when you wear it, but it's just edgy enough to make it feel that it isn't from that era, but it's a nod to a vintage era for sure. Just so cool. I don't know what else to say. The change is astounding. It's astounding how quickly it goes from that to this. It's already there. I only sprayed it on my hand a few minutes ago and it's already revealing that vintagey feeling. It's kind of, the spice in it is understated as well. There's cinnamon in here, there's coriander, there's ginger. The spices are really understated but perfectly placed, and I sprayed this on my hand. I had a few different things on me when I first smelled it, and it was the one I immediately thought, oh gosh, no. But then it was the one that wafted, and I thought, what is this? What am I smelling of? Not knowing it was this at all. So I can't stress enough how much it reveals something else after those slightly unusual savoury top notes. So, like I said, give it time. I love the final dry down of this. Just a hint of coconut, but we're going into a more mossy chypre territory that's full on modern, and it does have a really nice sillage, this one. It does lift up. I could smell it I had my arms down when I smelled it and I didn't know where it was coming from. So there is a projection, there is a sillage from this one, and it's overall quite soft in its nature. It's not spiky or that spicy. It's extremely well blended. And from there, I mean, from the kind of heart part of it to the base, I really just, it goes a lot more mossy and slightly more dry. The tropical coconut creaminess does back off a bit, but you're left with a really interesting, mossy, almost chypre vintage-like smell. So try it out. Anyway, if you guys want to get this fragrance, head on over to natino.co.uk. I'll post a link in the description below so you can go and try it out. I think they have samples of it as well. Anyway, I'm out from Mono. Click my logo down there to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon for another video. Goodbye.